Hello. Welcome to Live at One. We have a special guest and a special feature today in the fact that we are in the same room.
Thankfully.
So I'd like to welcome to the broadcast studio and into the same room as I am in, Tierra Williams. Tierra, for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection to the Central Pennsylvania Theater and Dance Fest.
Well, I participated last year when I met Cynthia Mezet through Elaine after a Poetry Out Loud competition. And from there, I've just been involved. We filmed a couple of different things. She included me in a lot more things this year, which I'm really grateful for. I always like expanding my art and literacy within the theater culture. So it was really exciting to have different opportunities and different pieces to work with, as well as just be a part of this. So I'm very excited. I think most people know, like, I'm a mom, I have a son, I am involved with the 320 Coalition. I have a community engagement show called Black Tea, and I am currently running for Ferguson Township Supervisor. So,
right. And you're a poet?
I am a poet.
Yes. I know. How do you keep like all the things?
Yeah, I don't keep them right. Yeah.
Alphabetical. That's usually what I go to.
I know. Yeah, maybe that might be better. That might be better next time. I can remember. Start off with
Mom will still be over poet, but you'll get it in there.
Yeah.
Activists will be first.
Exactly.
Go, right?
Yeah.
So cool. Last year you were the featured poet. You were one of the featured poets of the festival, and you will be doing more poetry this year. Will you be doing your own poetry?
Yeah. So actually, this year I will actually be doing my own pieces. Last year, I believe I did a lot of recitations and things that inspired me because you know, I'm a poet, but I'm an actress as well, and I love working through other people's work. But recently, Elaine has pushed me to not only share, but write more of my own poetry. So she's pushing me really hard, and hopefully by the fall, we'll have a poetry book with a lot of my poems coming out. So I'm excited to share some of the pieces that some people may have heard them at different events, maybe different protests or different events in the community, but I'm excited to share them with the theater community.
Yeah, we're excited to have them. I mean, you know, I'm pushing you gently, right?
Yes,
but you already are writing these poems.
Yes, true.
It's that step from writing and performing to just getting it down on paper so that you can share it with others and, you know, kind of get the word spread a little bit. But you have this real, gift when you read. I mean, you are connected, not just to the words, but to the audience as well. I mean, when you're doing that, when you're reciting your own poetry or somebody else's, like, what for you is, what's going through your head while you're doing that? Lots of things, but.
You know, lots of things, you know, even, and I know actors have this issue, like even when we're saying a piece by memory, there's like 25 other thoughts going.
I know, if people only knew.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, honestly, I think that when I'm in front of people that they should listen. And that's just the energy that I come. I just want people to stop and listen. And so that's kind of how I like present myself and present my pieces. So that way I can grab that attention. And then I think, you know, different things like emotion and inflection come after the fact. But I think my main goal is, okay, I don't care what you're doing or what you're thinking about. Stop right now and listen to me. And then that's I don't know, that's kind of how I operate. And that's what I'm thinking about most of the time. Like, don't talk, don't look at your phone, look at me. But, you know, I mean, I think that all artists deserve that respect. But I think that it's incumbent upon us to demand that with our presence when we get on stage. So
and that's a skill that you've learned probably in your studies of theatrical studies, but also just in the way you live your life.
True.
I once equated poetry with the, basically the phrase, I have something to say, listen. Right? And exactly what you said. And it's an understanding of the body's mechanism, your voice, your inflection, and you know when you're in the room with somebody who's reading or reciting poetry. I think poetry, I don't know how you feel, I'm curious, should be heard, should be read.
Yeah.
I mean, out loud, I guess is what I'm saying.
I agree with that. So, you know, in high school, I participated in something called forensic speech and debate. And poetry and prose were one of the competitions, right? And a lot of people don't understand the distinction between reading a poetry piece and maybe just like acting within a play. And they do have similarities, of course, but you really have to, especially when you're doing someone else's piece, you have to connect to the piece. But I think for me personally, I never want to connect with it in a way that is fake for me, or, display an emotion that I would probably never display when it comes to this issue. So I always try to make sure that even if it's written in this way, and somebody might look at it and take it very sad, and somebody might take it as a joyous thing, and I might take it and I might be more assertive or something with it. But I think that just finding what you bring to it, but making sure that yourself is in it, because I believe poetry should be read out loud, but I also think it's meant to be interpreted, and people write it for that, right? I know the author has a whole thing of what they want this to be, but if they just wanted to control it, I think they would have made it into a play, right? Because that's kind of what directors do. Like, that's what playwrights do. They see it, they see everything, they see the emotion, they see the age, they see all of that when they write the piece. Versus poetry, they're writing something from within, or maybe from an experience, and they are trying to get you to feel what they feel, but you may not, and it might not necessarily bother them, but they're just putting it out there. So that's what I think the difference is.
That's cool. It's interesting. I was having a conversation with a choreographer, and they told me a story about they had choreographed this piece about cell phones and people sort of using cell phones, and how, and it was meant to be a comical piece, right? And someone came up to them afterwards and said that was the most powerful interpretation of the 9/11 tragedy I've ever witnessed. And the choreographer just said, "Thank you," because that was not their intention, but that person felt something from the art. Right. Has anyone ever read your poetry? I'm curious. Have you ever heard anyone else recite yours?
No.
Okay.
No, right. I have not. I was so nervous to even write my own pieces.
Wow.
Because I feel like for so long, and like I said, within high school, being within that organization, you couldn't write your own pieces. It was only recitation.
True.
Poetry out loud is only recitation. And then when you're in theater, of course, you don't change lines. You do what the piece is. Right. So I never considered people taking to my poetry.
Yeah.
I watch people on poetry slams and write about now and different things, and it's just like, man, wow. I see, and I feel like I could do it, but I've honestly looked at them like, I would love to do that piece, right? And not even thinking about doing my own. But now that I have, I don't think I could even imagine someone else doing it. I think it would be interesting to see what kind of emotion and what they would take and bring from it, actually. So that that's actually interesting. I don't know, and I think that would be something I would look
next year. Look for a feature of Tierra Williams poetry by others, right?
Yeah.
Well, you are also, in addition to reading some of your own poetry, and that event will be available through the Central Pennsylvania Theater and Dance Fest website, which is centralpatheater.com. And that's a live broadcast. So let's take a moment and just kind of explain to folks the difference between I've got a pass, I'm a ticket holder. There are 13 shows that require you to have a ticket. And then there are many pieces that we wanted to have voices like Tierra's and other folks in the, children's ensembles and different, voices being heard. So these events are free. So your reading is accessible through the website, even if you don't have a pass. But why would you not buy a pass to the festival? It's the best way to support the artists. We are so grateful for you reading these poets. I believe they're going to be at 3:00 on Saturday and Sunday. That'll also be featured on the website so folks can find it. But again, it's that sitting and listening, right? And when Tierra speaks, you will listen, I promise you. but really, it puts us in a place when we share the arts and when we use arts to let's take the arts as a way to talk about and consider social justice.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not writing poetry about flowers and, and violence, right?
No, yeah. So first off, I consider myself a Blacktivist, which is a activist mainly concerned with the well-being of the Black community. But I also consider myself an art activist. I do activism through my art. whether it is creating Black tea or doing poetry, I considered myself pushing. And you know, at first I when I heard the term, I was like, oh, that sounds weird. And then I was like, well, Langston Hughes was that, and Billie Holiday was that, and Nina Simone. Like all of these people were art activists, Bessie Smith and Sidney Poitier, and all of these people to me are art activists, right? Like, and they didn't have to call themselves that, but just understanding that art and activism do go together, you know, and it's not just Black activism, right? It's women's movements, it's LGBTQ, it's the Latin or indigenous people community. It's so many different ways that you can put your activism within your art. And you know, I think it's cool. I think I want to expand, but I'm comfortable with speaking about these things in that way. I mean, it releases it from me, because I mean, the truth is activism is taxing. It's not an easy thing to do, and neither is theater. So when you try to put them both together, sometimes it's like, whoa, what are you doing? But I mean, it can also give such a great impact, and really, you know, somebody might listen to my poem and get something and feel differently than if they heard me yelling at a protest and giving a speech. And they might actually listen in a different way, or understand it, or really see it from a different perspective. And two of the poems that I'll be doing for the weekend will be related to the art activism and some of the things that I've been doing and feeling. And you know, and I feel like that's something that you can, like I said, you can interpret it in many ways. So
well, and I think that let's draw the distinction that when you're doing, you know, this particular social justice activism through your art, maybe this has less room to be interpreted differently. Like I think your voice has a really clear, you know, I don't want to give people the idea that they can listen to your poetry and be like, you know, oh, I'm okay, I don't have to think about this, right? I mean, I think you're really challenging people to think about themselves, if they're a white person particularly, be empowered if they're a Black person, right? I think that I want to be clear that yes, art is often interpreted differently by different people, but you've got a goal.
I do. And you know, I appreciate you saying that, because that is the case. Like, it definitely can be interpreted by different people. But I also, and it just made me think about, I want to also say that, you know, when you read my poetry, you also, you know, it is based off of my personal experiences, but it is also based off the fact of the matter of what happens in this country. But Black people are not a monolith. So every African American or Afro American or Black indigenous person doesn't feel this exact same way.
You're not the like,
right. So I'm not the spokesperson.
Yeah.
So it just, as long as people understand that, maybe every Black person might not agree with this. But you can't negate my experience. Right. You can't negate what I feel in that moment, or how this affected me in that moment. And you also can't negate the fact that there are many persons in this in this community, in this country, who feel the exact same way, or have had a similar, if not the exact same experience, and can relate. Right. So so like, it's twofold. Like, you can't necessarily reinterpret that in that way, but don't automatically think that all Black people think this way or feel this way. That's or you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really important to say too. Well, I want to, before we wrap up, because you and I could talk all day. I want to make sure that we talk about Black tea. Tell me about the incarnation of that. I mean, you've got that double entendre with your name being Tierra and Black tea, and then you actually enjoy some tea.
I actually do enjoy Black tea.
And so, tell us about the incarnation of that. How did that start?
So that started after being involved with some of the 320 coalition protests, and people specifically, Black and white people would come up to me and ask different questions and say different things. And, you know, sometimes I would stay after protests up to an hour talking to different groups of people that just walked up to me and wanted to say something. And then I realized, looking around, as far as media outlets were concerned here, there is no Black media platform out here. There's no platform where Black voices can be heard, acknowledged, and understood. And there were different things people asked, or said, or some people, You know, some people would come with questions, and some people would just come up to let me know they weren't racist, whatever it was. You know,
I'm sure it's very important
like
people know
whatever, whatever it was.
A black friend.
Yeah, but I think it was one girl who came up to me and she said that, you know, my words inspired her, but she didn't know if she was black enough. And I was like, well, do you think you're black? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, well, you're black. And she was like, well, yeah, you know, I'm more like a mutt or a mixed breed or something. And when I heard that, it hurt me so bad that this is the perception that she's had, but this is the area that she's grown in. And that really inspired me. Like, you know what? No, we need to make this show. We need to bring forth revelations. You know, with Osaze Osage being murdered by the State College Police Department, a lot of people believe that was the first instance of police brutality. I wanted to shed a light, like, no, there are a lot of other Black people that went through things. They just didn't die. And it doesn't make it any better that they were being harassed or unfairly treated or disproportionately selected for random whatever. Yeah. Right. And, you know, just hearing that made me come up with different shows. You know, I want to say episode 4 was about interracial dynamics and colorism. Yeah. Right. And specifically because of that question that girl asked me. And then, you know, pieces on, I did politics, I did race and religion. Yeah. I did Osaze and police brutality. Yeah. I did something else. And students in education. And, you know, that's a big one. And we're working now to work towards a season 2. We're actually already raising money. Myself, Black Tea, and another Black-owned business, Gratified Grad, are hosting a Juneteenth event where we will be raising money for Black Tea, but as well as the St. Paul AME Church in Bellefonte for Mama King. Donna and you know, King. Yes, call her Mama King, but Reverend Dr. Donna King, and the Underground Railroad tours that she did. So with Juneteenth, I mean, of course, it's appropriate. We're going to have artists, Charles Dumas, and people from Penn State Words, as well as myself, and we're going to be raising money in honor of that as well. And it just that's what I mean, like when I say like our activism can go in so many ways, you know, and so many things, because I mean, giving a tour is, for me, that's it is informational, but it's also theatrical, because she took us through and she had the light lantern, and it was a, you know, it was a feeling, right? It was something that could be understood, and that's why I gave her a nod in Black Tea in an episode, as well as doing it for Juneteenth. So I said all of that to say that there's like there is Black Tea within the community, but there are so many other Black-owned businesses that I've tried to shed light on. Yeah, and amplify their voices, right, and Black artists and Black people who have the aspiring dreams and goals, but really don't know where they fit in within this community, and sometimes it's hard. So
yeah, absolutely, and that's great. I know that on some of those segments, and those are available on YouTube through and Black Tea is like, you know, drinking tea, TEA. Yeah, and
it's also a nod to the especially back home, the Black community and the Black LGBTQ community. A lot of my gay male friends were like, you know, what's the tea? What is it? What's the new? So it's always it's a whole it's also what's the scoop, right? Like what's going on. So there's So
thanks for sharing
like a triple entendre, really,
right?
Really. Yeah. So it's
it just keeps on going.
I just wanted to add that in there. Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah. That's very cool. And I think, you know, I love the way that you intersperse, you know, an artist, a songwriter. You know, you can
modern history,
right, and answer the questions, the burning questions that people have. It's really informative.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure you get a lot of interesting questions here. Well, this has been really great to talk to you, and we're so honored that you're part of the festival, and we look forward to your chapbook in the fall, and we'll of course amplify that when that is available, featuring Tierra Williams' own poetry. So we'll look for your performances, and also you're in Charles Dumas' Fish and Loaves piece. I'm going to be interviewing Charles and Joe tomorrow, so we'll talk more about that. But again, stunning, beautiful performances through Charles's company, Fish and Loaves Theater Company, and so we'll look for you all over the festival, and we'll see you around town, I'm sure.
Yeah. So. And I just want to say that, when I met Elaine, she is the one who actually introduced me to Cynthia, to Charles with the Poetry Out Loud. And honestly, just to say this, I told you that I did poetry. I told you about my background. She had never heard me do anything, but introduced me to these people anyway. So literally, I feel like that was a leap of faith. And I was just like, well, that's interesting that she would introduce me to the people. She hadn't even heard me, but she assumed that I could do that. And she could tell. I guess she could tell.
I could tell.
And from that, I mean, I've done so many things, with you all, with the Osaze project, with Charles, and just inspiring me to do more poetry on my own, politics and poetry and all of these things. And so, and Cynthia came and did politics and poetry. I want to add that in, that she did amazing. And so I just really appreciate being involved, and I appreciate her giving me these pieces, because to be quite honest, the last time I did anything involving Greek, anything, was Antigone in college. I had to push myself. I had to say some German words. And so I really appreciate her pushing me in that lane, because theater is not just one genre, and I just appreciate being involved in all aspects and in all genres. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. We appreciate you. So, well, this was fun.
Yes.
Again, I'm gonna one last time. Tierra and I are gonna talk some more off screen.
Yeah.
But go to the website centralpatheater.com. This is where you're going to buy your pass to see the 13 shows, in addition to the seeing Tierra read her poetry at 3:00 on Saturday and Sunday. You'll want to go to that website and really get a Paul, can you actually bring up the website? And I'll remind folks that if they go to that green highlighted Broadway on Demand, that's the place you're going to click, and then it's going to ask you through a series of there we go, that's where all the shows are. You can buy one ticket to one of the events, or you can buy a pass that's going to get you into all 13 of those shows. You can watch them as many times as you want, but once again, I'll remind you, it's only from 7 p.m. on Friday to 7 p.m. on Sunday. So that during those 48 hours is the only time you'll be able to stream these shows once you have your ticket. So I encourage you to get a pass, because there'll be things you'll miss on the first view of something, and you'll want to go back. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow live at 1 with Charles Dumas and Joe Dumas from Fish and Loaves Theater. And I look forward to seeing you in person down the road. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay.